on the classical economic theory, I kind of thought that, there was a lot of content that I was putting. And on a Zoom call, it becomes kind of too much economics to handle. So I redrafted the unit into a flow chart, more like a visualization of the classical economic theory. And I'll we'll start with that presentation. Hang on. Let me. Okay. So this was what we did last time in terms of classical conceptualizations, labor and employment. In fact, just before this class, I was reading this tweet of a guy based on a report of Indian Express, where they were talking about 30,000 Indians who had traveled to the Far East, Philippines, Thailand, Malaysia, are untraceable. And 69% of these people are from Punjab. So obviously there is a high unemployment in the country, which is forcing youths to pick up, take travel or migrate based on employment. And if you remember, I had talked about the fact that Thailand's fishing industry is a large employer of human trafficking. So, where these people have gone, who's tracking them up. And that is one of the reasons why we are studying this, label formulations, labor, conceptualizations, to understand how this labor was, historically, labor has moved, how labor has been understood by various, people, classic conceptualizations, the neoclassical approach, and so on and so forth. I believe the fact that these units are written a little yeah, economically heavy in terms of more in terms of the economics as a subject rather than looking at migration and diaspora. But so I'll try and make it as simple as possible for you to understand the process, and in case there's a question which comes in the examination, to be able to answer it. So, doing a recap, an economic theory is a set of ideas and principles. Are you able to see my PPT and hear my voice, all of you, guys?
Yes, sir.
Okay. 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 Thank you.
Yes, sir, it is clear, please.
Perfect. Economic theory is a set of ideas and principles that outlines how different economies function. And more often than not, a theory is conceptualized to get a larger understanding about how things work. So this is a recap. Classical economics is based on two concepts, laissez-faire, non-interference of government, and the main concept of laissez-faire is the Say's law of market and the wage price flexibility and full employment. So the Say's laws is, you don't need to, remember these laws, but this gives you an idea about why this non-interference of government was the basic moot point of the classical economic theory. Supply credits its own demand, income generates from the production and sale of goods is the source of spending that creates demand to purchase. So that's called the Say's law of market. And the second is the wage price flexibility. There's no option of involuntary unemployment. All those who are willing to work will get a job at the existing market wage rate. Now, these were conceptualizations based on which the classical theory was made. There are shortcomings in these conceptualizations for a simple reason. No guarantee that if there is a supply, uh, there is this direct relation between, and also involuntary unemployment. People might lose. So these two laws, in fact, criticism to these two laws got in the neoclassical theory. Now, this is how capitalism works. So this is the visualization part. I'm getting a message, my internet is unstable. Just, are you able to hear my voice? Okay. So, okay, better now. Perfect. Capitalism in a larger picture looks like this. Everything, all production is for profit. All production is for sale and it is for profit. There are two classes, capital class and working class. Capital class owns the means of production, working class hires services. Larger picture of capitalism. Okay. This is how the labor market works. There is an employer who hires a labor and converts the labor into a wage labor. It's the headline is labor market, not labor marker, labor market. There's an employer who does the hiring. Oh, and this whole thing happens in what is called the labor market. Labor market is an institution, it's not a physical entity, it's an institution. In a labor market, employer takes labor, hires the labor into a wage labor. Wage labor is a labor who gets wages. This is how the factory production happens. So there are inputs, there's a factory. Factory is run by wage labor. Wage labor are two types, one engaged in production and the second is dependent on the labor. The factory churns out surplus. From the surplus, part of it is stock for the next cycle, which is not considered a surplus. Surplus is separate. So the stock for the next cycle goes as inputs. The surplus is divided into one which is for direct consumption and the second is for producer goods. This surplus is the modern concept of GDP. Classical economics works on concept of surplus. And the economists look at how the surplus is generated, how is it valued, and how is it distributed. And in the distribution, how it is used by classes for consumption/investment. This is your larger aspect of classical economic theory. I hope this makes it much simpler to understand and much more clearer. Guys, does this make sense? Okay. So this breaks down the whole theory into this is how it is created. The whole classical economic theory works on the basis of on the principle of surplus.
Sir, I can't hear you. Mute करा है तुमने.
There is a technical issue. I think Abhay sir is not there. So we can wait for a minute or two. Let me contact him.